Hey everyone, my name is Barrett. I'm the artist behind this Photoshop cat, and I just wanted to talk through my process a little bit. I'm using Photoshop, as you can tell, and I am a big fan of combining different elements. I use Bridge, Adobe Bridge, to go through my entire asset library, which is very huge, and I go through lots of different photos. Lots of those photos are landscapes, flowers, wall textures, plants, leaves, flowers, and insects and things like that. I have a bunch of different animals, just a ton of different assets, and I like to just throw them on the canvas like you're seeing here, and I'll just kind of see what happens, what sticks, what looks good, and then as I go through, if something I like is like working, I'll use a clipping mask to erase different sections of it so that it looks more organic, like it's painted onto the cat itself. And then I go through that process with pretty much all the different layers. And as I put those pieces on, I kind of determine the composition. I don't really have a set image in my mind at the beginning. I know that I want to do something cat related, but in the end it always ends up being something completely different than what I expected, which is kind of cool, and that's why I think it's more of a surrealism. It's an automatic painting technique that I just kind of like dream up these things as I'm working, and I really like how that flows. It puts me in a flow state creatively. I'm able to have fun, experiment, and try different things, and that's one reason that I really enjoy using photography in my art. It's a lot easier to quickly try different ideas out without having to be so hung up on painting small details and illustrating things so much. And I used to do illustration and painting like traditionally and also digitally, but I just found that photography was so much easier and faster and more enjoyable to me, and I'm able to replicate the painting illustration look using these different blending techniques that I've learned over the years in Photoshop. One of my favorite techniques is called blend if, and you'll see that I'm doing it. It's kind of hard to see because I sped it up so fast, but if you open up the individual layer, you have control, fine-tuned control over how it blends into the layers behind it, or how it blends itself, just based on its white and black values. What's great about that tool is that you can actually option click on an arrow and you can drag it out and you get grayscale instead of just black and white. So you don't see those real harsh black and white threshold kind of look. You can actually have a nice gradation. So it's one of my favorite tools to use in Photoshop. And also I use the puppet warp tool a lot when I'm manipulating branches. I didn't really use it in this artwork too much because I didn't have any tree branches so much, but I do like to use that one as well very much. And in this case, what I do is the composition builds organically, like I said before, and then when I get to a point where I like the layers and the depth and the perspective of everything, that's when I start to go in and start to paint over each object with lighting. And what I'll do is I'll actually set the layer to lock, and then I'll use paintbrushes that I've acquired over the years. Some are ink paintbrushes like India ink washes, and then there's also this main watercolor kind of texture brush that I use for most of my art. And I'll just set the layer to lock to paint, and I'll set the brush mode to overlay or soft light, and I'll just literally paint light on top of those objects, or I'll paint shadows on those objects to make them feel more realistic instead of them being just smashed on there like a collage, traditional collage that you'll see. My collages, even though it's still collage, I try to think of it more of as painting rather than collaging, even though technically it's still collaging. But I use a lot of textures too. You'll see that I grab a lot of watercolor splashes and ink stains, also like paint strokes, and in this case I'm using a lot of clouds, mist, fog, things like that to add some volumetric lighting, some depth, and it adds a lot of emotion and drama to the piece as well. And those are things that really enhance the art and make the viewer really kind of get drawn into it and try to search for details. And one of my main goals with all this is to get people to kind of figure out what the story is about of the art, and then come up with their own story rather than try to interpret what I was trying to say so much. I'd rather have them be more interactive with it and kind of look at it from their own perspective, and maybe they see this example as a pet was somebody lost their pet and they're seeing the cat again in a dream, and the cat is lost but not forgotten kind of thing. Or somebody might just see this as a really cool fantasy scene with a cat world or something, and the lady's just kind of walking into it. Or maybe it's just a cat like realm, and there's this different dimension with cats kind of as the gods, and you can just imagine a lot of different scenarios. And that's what I like about doing the surrealism, the fantasy art. Personally, it's exciting to me. It's my own kind of, as I said before, it's my automatic painting. This is just coming out of my head as I paint, and as I do it, the composition morphs and changes. So I don't really have a plan behind these. Sometimes people ask me, what's your goal here, or what were you trying to tell in this piece? And I said, really, my goal is to hear what other people say about it. Makes it more interesting. I just want people to remember my work because it was interesting, and not necessarily because I was the most skillful or I had the greatest idea and I was trying to force that onto you, and more like you come up with your own idea. That's the whole goal behind these. I really appreciate you watching. I just wanted to talk through some of the process here. And this piece took about 20 hours in Photoshop. I would say about 20 hours, not 100% sure. This was sped up about 2,000%. So it's going, pretty quickly. So it's hard to really see all the little details, but you can kind of get the idea. So here it is, the final result. Came out really well. I'm really excited about this piece. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. And please follow me on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, barrettbiggers.com.